Welcome back to the world's worst fishing, everybody. I'm Chris Jones. Thanks for being here. Be sure to like, subscribe, notification bell, all that stuff, and be sure to leave a comment down below. We are in the line at Wendy's getting some lunch for the family. It's a beautiful day here in Tallahassee, Florida, so great day to film. Now, a little over 2 years ago, I made a video, more of a discussion video. I didn't make any baits in it or anything, but it was a discussion video, and I titled it, "So You Want to Start a Bait Company?" Sort of phrasing it as a question. And, I went into a lot of topics about, I guess, starting with my experience trying to start a bait business and where I was at the time. Today's going to sort of be a follow-up to that, but not just should you start a bait company or not, but is it worth it to invest in all of this stuff to make your own baits at home? And what's sort of the landscape look like now? What's the market look like now? And is it too saturated? Can you even be successful if you want to sell baits? So today's sort of a follow-up to that. 2 years later, we're going to eat and then we'll get started. All right, so we're actually going to start this video with a little demonstration, and then we will kind of have the discussion, I guess, section of the video. So I bought these Zoom flukes here at Walmart when I was there earlier. Yeah, that's not a very even laminate. That's supposed to be a laminate. Just to sort of serve as the example of the store-bought baits when kind of doing the comparison of should you make your own at home or just stick to buying them at the store. How expensive is it going to be to reproduce this yourself, right? To get that first jerkbait out of the mold. And I thought this was kind of a cool color there. What do they call this one? Rainbow Shad. So we're going to do a quick little color match of Rainbow Shad. Okay, so we've actually got the colors started here, and that's just 2 drops of black there and about 3/4 of a cup of plastic, because I'm pretty sure that top color, believe it or not, I'm actually sure that that's like a sort of like a light charcoal gray with then some blue highlight powder. At least that's how we're going to do ours. And the reason why I'm doing this color match here is just to kind of show you, I guess, a homemade version of a store-bought bait, just to kind of drive home the comparison between the two, or to be able to make a more accurate comparison of the home lure hobby versus just going out and buying your own baits. So that's why I kind of figured, well, we'll just try to match a color that we buy at the store, and that'll be a pretty accurate way to look at things. So this side right here is just clear plastic without any pigment in it, and loaded up with holographic silver flake. I'm not sure if you can really, yeah, you can kind of see the hologram effect there, really only when it's moving. So essentially those are the 2 colors. Now, just looking at this, they might have actually used a purple highlight now that I'm looking at it. So we might redo this, but yeah, that's kind of how we're going to start. All right, here we go. A little dual injection laminate demonstration, and I added some more, you can see that's a violet highlight right there. So I added a little bit more purple to it, so we'll see if it comes out. Let's see if we got the color match correct on our first attempt. You don't always get it right, but generally you can get in the ballpark, and then you can make small refinements, which is, one of the advantages of doing your own stuff is, let's say you really like this color from Zoom here, this Rainbow Shad, but you've always wanted the top color to be a little darker, right? Maybe the bait fish in your area have darker backs, for example. Well, add a couple drops of black, and now you have your own new and improved Rainbow Shad color. So, hey, there's one tick for custom bait making, right? Yeah, looks pretty right on to me, huh? At least in the cup. All right, let's open one up and see how they did. see how they did. Did we get close? Yeah, we definitely got close. However, right off the bat, I can tell that my top color was just not quite saturated enough. Okay? So there it is. You can see we got the highlight effect. And the bottom, of course, with the hologram flake. But you can see how see-through the top is. Now, you know, one of the bonuses to making your own baits is that you're going to be using generally higher quality Plastisol material, which just cooks clearer. However, if we look at, let's get one out. So much fun to try to match colors, especially when it's like a color that you grew up using. Okay? So I mean, look at how close that is. My lord. You know, we're really splitting hairs there. But as you can see, you know, the top, it looks real see-through from the top. It's when you get the thicker profile of it from the side that you really see it. So, I don't know. I think just a little bit more saturation on that top color, and we would have absolutely creamed it. But, as you can see, it fits right in, no problem. And that's first try. Now obviously if you're a beginner, you know, learning how to color match takes a long time, and you know, to me it's a good way to build your chops. But just for today's video purposes, here's the color match. Alright, haven't had some beer on the channel in a while, but it's a Saturday. Cheers, everyone. So, let's, I guess, take a little deeper dive into what just happened. What just happened? We just completely created from scratch almost an exact match of a store-bought bait. Now, why would somebody want to do that? I went to Walmart and let's see, where is it? This bag of baits was $3. Now, that's probably $5.50 at Bass Pro Shop. Not knocking them, but you know, different retailers have different price points for the same thing, right? So this cost me $3 to get all of the materials to make this. Probably cost me $300. So why do this, right? Aside from the whole, I guess aside from the obvious, you know, immediate thoughts of, well, I can make whatever I want and I'm sure it's really fun and I'll have something that, you know, the other guy doesn't have on the lake. There's a lot that goes into this, and you know, those are certainly not the only reasons, at least why I do it. So to take a little bit of a deeper look into how we accomplished this right here that you just saw on camera, let's kind of look at, I guess, the overall landscape of home bait making and what it costs. One of my most successful videos from, again, way back was a video that I did on how to get started with a budget. I think the limit that I put on there was about $500. So just to read you off a few items here, okay, for Plastisol, okay, so the building blocks of all saw plastic baits is the Plastisol Compound. There's a market average right now of $35 for 1 gallon of plastic. That's not including shipping. That's just the raw material cost. Now, some prices are higher, but they offer free shipping. I've even seen single gallons of plastic for over $60. But the market average is about $35, okay? And that's for 1 gallon. So for colorant, okay? So you've got to have some pigment, right? Okay? This is a 4-ounce bottle of color. The market average there, at least just from the 5 or 6 suppliers that I looked at, is about $7 for 4 ounces of color. Now, powders, you know, interference powders and things like that can vary. They can be a little bit more expensive, but that's just kind of a baseline. Okay, so the next thing, glitter, right? Right. So here's a 4-ounce bottle of glitter. The average market cost is about $6 for 1 4-ounce bottle. Or if you also like to use the dead-on flakes, okay, they package theirs by weight. but it's the equivalent of about 6 ounces of glitter for $10. Okay, so all of these items are fairly cheap, and what the good part about some of the smaller items, the glitters, the flakes, the powders, is that they go a long way. Okay, what we used to just make those jerk baits, I mean, was almost incalculable small amounts. Okay, I mean, to try to figure out exactly the dollar amount of flake that we just used on camera, I don't even think it can be done. I mean, we used maybe 1/4 teaspoon total of flake. I mean, that's where we're talking small stuff here. But some things are more expensive, right? This dual injector, okay? What it took to make that, this piece of equipment right here is about $300. However, once you have it, you have it. Generally, none of this stuff really depreciates in terms of the durable goods. You know, the molds, the injectors, things like that, you know, your work table. You know, some of these things you really just never have to replace. Now, you know, your microwave might kick every now and then, but that's not a big cost. So, you know, as you can see, things get expensive fast, but I think you have great returns on it because you're not going to have to replace your glitter and flake very often. The only thing that really depreciates quickly, that is of high cost, is your plastic. So I've been on YouTube, I don't know, a little over 3 years now or something. Heck, maybe longer. I really have lost count. But one of the main questions I get asked is, will I save money making my own baits? The answer is, in the short term, absolutely not. You will be a couple $1,000s in before literally you can turn around. Now, with that said, a lot of that value is lasting. Your biggest purchases are going to be molds and plastic. And depending on how fancy you want to get with your injectors, you know, injectors are pretty expensive. Like I said, that dual injector was like $270. I think that's what it currently still is. Even a single injector can run you well over $100. But once you have those, you have them. You don't have to replace them. These molds, I still have some molds from 2012. That's a long time, and guess what? 20, 30 years from now, they're still going to be exactly the same. So in the short run, absolutely not, right? If you don't have a lot of money to invest in a hobby, keep buying baits off the shelf. But I think if you have a creative side, if you see how fun this can be, if you know, recognize some of the advantages to doing it, or even want to start a business, in the long run, a lot of these things hold their value for a long time. And then you find that your only real existing cost is plastic. I mean, it took me years to go through pints of color, which are not expensive. Some of those powders I've been using for like a decade, and I pour pretty often. So in the short term, absolutely not. You're going to spend a lot more money, and you're gonna think that you're crazy. In the long run, I think it pays off. So I would say one of the main unmeasurable, I guess, perks of doing your own stuff, and by that I mean not necessarily by the numbers, a cost analysis of the two, but if you look at this, you know, tray of goodies here, you immediately see, okay, here's why people get into creating their own stuff. And it's not to brag on this work, it's just to show you can do things in your own garage or wherever it is you want to do this stuff with all of these home materials that you'll just simply never see from a machine. You'll never see from a large bait company. You know, just machines and robots just cannot duplicate what a human can do with their hand, particularly with hand pouring equipment, right? So an open pour mold like that, you know, this is not a custom mold. This is a mold that I helped launch with AI, the Ginger Ninja. This is a BTS worm mold. These are all hand pour options, as are those swim baits right there. And so what this hobby allows, I think, is for you to take it as far as you want to. If you want to just simply be able to make your own rainbow shad jerk baits, but alter the color and really keep it at that, this hobby has everything you want. If you want to take it to the extreme color-wise and pattern, I mean, you know, the amount of work that I put into developing some of my hand pouring techniques to, you know, arrive at a swim bait like that was years in the making. But it was worth it to me. You know, number one, I'm also trying to sell baits. You know, I still run a company, Land is the Limit Soft Plastics. But, you know, mainly it's about creative expression. The same reason why I played drums for so long. It was a passion of mine, and I wanted to develop it as far as I could. And this hobby allows the angler, right? I've always said that this is the best hobby in the world for he or she who fishes, for an angler, because they can really, really expand on their favorite baits at home. You can take whatever, I mean, there are molds and options for almost anything that you're familiar with as an angler, and you can expand on those ideas and create them at your, literally at your leisure, in your own garage. You're not dependent on anyone else. You're not dependent on store prices. You're not dependent on, you know, inventory at a store. You are in control, and as you can see, the creative ideas are totally endless. So I wanted to make one more quick point, just going back to the cost of materials and how generally replenishing your Plastisol supply is going to be your biggest ongoing cost, okay? All right, so 1 gallon of plastic, the market average is $35. So for me, I always use dead on plastics. 1 gallon of plastic at $35 shipped to my door with shipping comes out to about $50. Now you can obviously order in, you know, 5-gallon buckets and get better economies of scale, as in the cost per gallon is reduced the more you buy. But let's just stick with the 1 gallon example. Okay, there's 16 cups of plastic in 1 gallon. This is 4 cups worth of plastic. And those are laminates where you cannot remelt the runners. Well, actually you can, but you can't recycle the runners to make more, right, of the same color. If you're new to this and you don't understand that, watch my videos on laminating and you'll see what I mean by that. But the point is, here's the yield of just 4 cups of plastic. So as you can see, your plastic goes a long ways. Yes, you have to replenish it. It's non-renewable. That mold will be the same mold literally when Armageddon happens, right? But your plastic is not. But as you can see, 4 cups, golly, that sure gets you a lot of goodies. And so I think over time, you'll really start to see the returns that I was mentioning earlier. So it is so nice today. I had to come outside and just feel the breeze. Apparently we have like a winter storm hitting the whole southeast like tonight. My mom was in North Georgia and she's actually turning and burning, coming back down to, I guess, escape several feet of snow. So I'm not sure what we're gonna get here in North Florida, but apparently we have some weather coming. So kind of to sum the video up, and I guess to start the final segment, you know, the video 2 years ago, starting a bait company, a lot has changed. You know, I rewatched that video and I stand by every word in it. But I guess some thoughts that I had to go on with that is it more difficult now, right? New mold companies have emerged. New Plastisol, well, maybe not new Plastisol companies, but there's new colors in the market. There's new glitters. There's certainly new molds. I mean, there have been so many startup mold companies in the last 2 years. I can't even keep track of them all. I mean, golly, just off the top of my head, I think we have Hog Salad, Fat Guys Fishing, a couple others. Epic Molds might be over 2 years now, but just in the last 2 years, you know, there's been a lot more product saturation in the home bait maker sector. And there's a lot more home bait makers. So does that mean that you stand lesser of a chance of being successful, right? Or maybe not. As the degree of bait making increases, as we evolve and patterns get more difficult and people are making just, you know, more complicated, more wow patterns, does the standard watermelon red still cut it? Can you make a sale? Can you make a profit? Or do you have to do the really fancy stuff? You know, these are all interesting questions. I certainly don't have the answers. I know what my current business model is, but I spent years getting there. So if somebody wants to get into it now as a bait company, you know, what direction do you take? Do you do the fancy hand pour stuff and spend the next couple years developing your pouring chops to try to get to a level to where you can command good pricing and a good customer base? Or do you start simple and, you know, start with more basic colors and basic injection molds to where you're going to have more success right away in terms of getting good baits, right? It's a lot easier to learn how to inject watermelon red than it is to hand pour a fancy swim bait. It just is. However, which path leads you to better overall success? You know, I think a lot of that is determined on, you know, what you have a passion for, the level of creative, I guess, flow you want to take into your workflow. Do you want to spend 2 hours on 6 baits, or do you think you're going to get a better return spending that 2 hours pumping out injection, you know, with a pneumatic vise and, you know, just really hammering out hundreds of baits? So, you know, these are all interesting thoughts. It's so hard to answer. I know that even with all this extra saturation, I have more customers than I've ever had. A lot of my friends, a lot of which who are all pouring the same molds, their customer bases are expanding and increasing. So, you know, I think we're still at a point to where the general angling public is still pretty fresh to the idea of the small home bait maker. Even though we might feel like there's too many of us, or there's just, oh my God, there's too many molds now and there's too many people doing the same thing. I don't think the average angler sees it that way. I still think they are mostly confined to what they see on the shelves and what, you know, the pro is throwing on the MLF tour. The higher level of baits that people are making in their garages, and this is well beyond just soft baits. This goes for hard baits, wooden baits, resin baits, anything that you can think of, or just repaint jobs on existing baits. I think a lot of them are still pretty aloof to what can be accomplished from the small bait maker like you and me. So I think there's still just immense opportunity to not only have a successful hobby, but also a successful business. So I'm curious what you guys think. Shoot me lots of comments down below. What do you see as the greatest argument for or against making your own stuff at home? You know, and this video was just kind of to open that discussion, give my thoughts on it, and sort of be a follow-up to my video from 2 years ago. So a little bonus clip here. We poured a lot of 5-inchers earlier because we just got a set of new Angling AI 5-incher molds. So I had some 5-inchers before. You can tell the new ones from the dirty ones. But we just added 6 new 5-inchers today. And let's see what we did. This is one of my favorite colors. Absolutely one of my best sellers. Y'all are very familiar with it if you watch my channel. There it is, the green color shift shad, using the Dip Your Car ZTG. The ZTG is already wiped off. Hyper shift for that kind of green to blue color shift effect there. Wow, what an awesome thing. What an awesome thing. So yeah, now we have, I think we can pour up to 14 of these at a time. So I think what we're going to do is get the rest of them out, line them up, and kind of show you the whole run. But yeah, shiny new molds. Unfortunately, they won't stay that shiny for long. Oh yeah, clean, 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 and then, but you know, the great thing is, even the old dirty molds, which going back to today's kind of theme of the video, even the old dirty molds produce the same bait with the same shine over and over and over. Right? Is there any difference? Nope. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, there they are. How about that? It's quite a spread. One of my absolute favorite colors. And yeah, so Now comes the fun part, putting on eyeballs, but I will spare you guys that. Thank y'all so much for watching today. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and lots of comments down below. And we will see y'all in the next video.